friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be me talking about my favorite comfort reads. I'm gonna preface this before we get into it. Some of these reads you're probably gonna sit there and go, the fuck, Teresa? These are not comforting at all. These are kind of dark. They're comforting to me, okay? We're just gonna leave it at that. Let's just get into it. So I was planning my videos for this week yesterday, and I initially was meant to make this video be my video about like my favorite like romance books, since you know February and Love's in the Air and you know all that fun stuff. But then I realized that one, this will be going up on the very last day of February, so no point. And then two, come March, it'll be the anniversary for when a lot of us have finally entered the Panini Press and went into quarantine, into lockdown, and things went from we only need 14 days to flatten the curve to we are now here. I know a lot of other countries are currently out of this pandesal, this poopity scoopity. But some of us, hi, I'm American, I'm gonna get married in my bedroom is where my brain is currently at for this pandemic. Hi, hello. So I thought I would make a list of books that were kind of my comfort reads and things that typically get me out of like a weird feeling when the weird feeling arises. Hopefully some of these books you will be inspired to read yourself, and hopefully some of these books are your own comfort reads and we can all comfort each other in the comments, or some of these books will hopefully you guys don't look at me too weird when I say some of these books, because some of them you're just like, the fuck? The first book is actually a graphic novel, and that is The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. This is, I want to say, like a middle grade, like about a middle grade graphic novel following Frances, who makes these wonderful dresses and wants to be this well-known fashion designer in Paris. Now, Prince Sebastian sees these dress designs and invites her to the castle to design dresses for his alter ego, Lady Crystalia, whom he dresses up as when he is away from his princely duties. Now, as their friendship progresses into potentially something more, Frances has to make the choice between creating these wonderful dresses, not just for Sebastian / Lady Crystalia, but for the rest of the world, or her friendship / whatever is budding with Sebastian. It's such a quick read. I read this in like not even an hour and I cried reading it. It's just such a good read about like friendship and loyalty and creativity and acceptance of basically everything, and I highly recommend this book. I think it's such a nice, lighthearted, and heartwarming read that I need to read more of Jen Wang's graphic novels, because this was just a masterpiece in and of itself. And like, I'm actually overdue for a reread with this book. It's just gorgeous and I love it so much, and we need more books like this. The next one is a book that you guys are literally gonna sit there and look at me and be like, the fuck? How is this a comfort read? This is not comforting. And that is Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. This is one of my favorite books, and it's a book that I mention at least once a year. There are like handfuls of books on my shelves that I mention on my channel at least like once a year. Perks of Being a Wallflower is definitely one of them. This is an adult coming of age novel following young Charlie, who sends letters to this mysterious friend as he is trying to really understand his life, his depression, and kind of high school in general. You guys have seen the movie, you guys I'm sure know what this is about, or if you read the book. It's a comfort read for me in a lot of reasons, in the sense that I empathize a lot with Charlie and to have like my feelings kind of validated, and like to see kind of what he goes through and his growth and changes kind of has me in a hopeful state by the end of the book, despite the fact that I sobbed hysterically while reading the book. It leaves me in a very hopeful state that, like, you know, as much things do, life changes and life does get better. It's just a matter of your circumstances and kind of your willingness to seek the help that you need, and not to numb it down with drugs and alcohol. But I highly recommend the book if you haven't read it. It's a really quick read because it is told in letters. And if you have read the book, or watched the movie, it's also pretty similar to the movie as well. So it's not like you're missing out on a lot. They just changed a couple of things from the book to the movie. But like I said, it's one of my favorite books, and I probably will be rereading this if the US is in for another year of the Pond replay. My next comfort to read is actually a series, and that is Balefire by Kate Tiernan. This is a paranormal YA romance. Took me a second. This follows these two twins who didn't know they were twins until one of the twins' dads gets killed in a car accident, and she is forced to move to New Orleans, where Cleo, the other twin, is currently residing. And there they find out they're twins and that they're witches. Well, Thais finds out she's a witch. Cleo grew up with it. and they have to figure out exactly what is trying to kill them, because them being together means kind of doom for everyone involved. I really love this book series. I read this, as you guys can tell, to death when I was in high school. And a little bit after in college. It's just so familiar, and I mentioned this thing a lot on my channel, but I love paranormal settings in New Orleans. There's just a lot of history in that area that I think you can bounce off of if you're going to try to write something, including like involving fantasy or what have you may. Love this series, love this book. I did a reread of it last year, and I did find a lot of problematic elements, a handful of problematic elements with this book that I didn't notice until now, and it didn't really like super change or color the way I like this, like why I chose this book as a comfort read, but it definitely did change my like idea of what was going through the author's head when she wrote this book, and was like, yeah, this is perfect. Like, age gaps I don't mind in paranormal, and a lot of like fiction paranormal romance. It's just because it's just like it's part of the angst, you know, like it's weird, I'm aware, but like it's part of the angst, especially if you're gonna write about a vampire. It's part of the angst. But like when you're writing about immortal witches and one of them is like stuck in her 18, like is 18/20, and the other one is literally like not even old enough to get her driver's license yet, or even her permit, kind of sketchy. But I like this book because of the world building. The twins dynamic is also done wonderfully, and I love it so much. So I highly recommend. Just be wary of the weird dynamic within the relationship in this scenario. The next book on this list is actually Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I love this book. Well, if you guys don't know, this is following young Simon Spear. I almost said Snow. Young Simon Spear, who has been emailing this young mysterious boy named Blue from his school back and forth. That is until his emails get leaked, and now he has to try to kind of salvage this relationship by hiding the fact he's being blackmailed. Primarily because he is not an openly gay kid at his school. So he would not only be outing the boy he's been messaging, but also himself, which is something he is not quite ready for. I read this book shortly before the movie came out, and I cried. I think that like it's queer lit, not written by a queer man, which is problematic in and of itself, but I think the message of just love and acceptance is there. It's comforting to me for a lot of reasons that I can't personally get into without sobbing hysterically. Same thing with the movie. But I think that this is definitely like one of those books that I definitely do enjoy, and does bring a kind of a comfort for me that a future where kids will be accepted for their sexualities and genders is somewhat in the near horizon, and we don't have to worry about like them being afraid of being kicked out or hurt by family and friends. And I'm overdue for a reread as well, so keep a lookout for that in the future. Now, would this really be my channel if I did not mention that The Song of Achilles was a comfort read of mine? So The Song of Achilles, if you guys are new to my channel, this is another one of those books that I mention at least once a year. This is a adult retelling of Achilles' myth shown through the eyes of Patroclus. I've read this book a bajillion times and I still can't pronounce Patroclus or Patroclus correctly. It's okay. I love this book so much. It's a comfort to me because I love Greek mythology. I like the idea of retelling Greek myths in a lens that is probably more accurate than what we read in the Greek myth books, because, you know, they are Greek. They are kind of homo. Very homo. So it's time we accepted that fact. And I like this retelling a lot. I think it's a nice way of kind of humanizing the very bland and not so amazing character that is Achilles from the Iliad. So, highly recommend. It's a nice comfort read for me. It's like coming home. I swear I lived in ancient Greece in a past life. It's probably a mermaid in another one too, but we're not going to get into that one. Probably lived in Atlantis. That's probably where all this problem comes from. Yeah. But yeah, I highly recommend this book if you're looking for something. You are going to cry after you read this book. It is inevitable. It's time you accept the fact before you go into it. It's just good. It's just good. Alrighty, the next book is going to be another one you're going to be sitting here going, the fuck, Therese? The fuck, Therese? But that is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Now I understand. I understand. If you guys don't know what this is about, it's a classic, so you already know where this is going, where Holden Caulfield has been kicked out of basically every single school that he has gone to. Every single one. And after he gets kicked out of this last school, instead of going home, he decides that he's a man. He decides that he is able to stand and live on his own and goes to New York. And there he bitches and complains and moans in New York. Now you're probably sitting here going, the fuck, Therese? How is this a comfort read? How in the world does this make you feel comfort? You cannot relate to this person at all. And yes, you are correct. I cannot. But man, does it bring me comfort to see some privileged white man fail and get beat up by a pimp because he couldn't pay the prostitute $5. And didn't even sleep with a prostitute. He just cried while she sat on his lap. On a more serious note, I think this is a comfort read for me because this is one of those books that my high school teacher, English teacher, who I both had for my freshman and my senior year of classes, said that this is a book that a lot of freshmen didn't really understand when they went into it. And then when they reread it as a senior, they understood it really well and could identify with Holden in some way, shape, or form. Now, this is a comfort for me because Holden is a lost soul. He's very lost. He has never struggled in his life. Most of his struggles come from himself and his own weird things that he's placed on himself. He's never struggled. Not ever. Never, 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 never. But he likes to think he has. Now, if you're a young child who actually has struggled and has kind of felt lost, Holden is probably someone you can relate to and would bring comfort because, you know, someone put a lot of your weird feelings and your weird validations. There's a cat that opened the door, which is why that door opened. There's no ghost. Weird validations into some order. And anytime that I personally feel lost, I like to reread it because one, Holden is consistently lost from womb to tomb. And like I said, it's always funny to see a privileged white man fail. So yeah, I highly recommend if you're looking for kind of a nice laugh and like an eye roll here and there and like just having that weird feeling of being lost kind of validated for you. The next is another Kate Tiernan book, and that is Sweep by Kate Tiernan. This is the first book. It's actually a series, the first 3 books, of following young Morgan Rollins, who hasn't really fit in. She doesn't fit in with her family. She's not exactly what a lot of girls would call beautiful. She's quite plain. And then she meets the mysterious Cal, and Cal introduces her to Wicca and this side of life that she never really thought to explore until now. It's a comfort read because I read this when I was a sad, sad little angsty middle schooler. And it comforts me in a lot of ways because it brings back those feelings of being lost and sad. And then finding your place in the world. Which, I mean, I guess is kind of like what we all want, so it worked out. But I highly recommend it. It's paranormal YA romance, like early 1990s to like early 2000s. Highly recommend it. Very good read. Very easy read. The next one is another paranormal romance because it's all Therese finds comfort in is the idea of witches, vampires, and werewolves. But that is The Night World by L.J. Smith. This follows an anthology of different stories. Anthology, I guess? Like, it's a bind up of 3 books, so I guess in some ways an anthology. But also not. I don't know. Kind of following these different perspectives of witches, werewolves, and vampires in this hidden world that they live in that's kind of hidden within our own. And it follows the stories of all of them falling in love and some darker force coming in and trying to mess all that up because they have rules in this society, apparently. It's one of my favorite reads. I got TB read it and he loved it. I wish the last book would come out, like so much. So much, it kind of hurts. It definitely hurts. The last book on this list, again, should come at no surprise because I only have so many things that comfort me when I'm feeling down. And somehow, comfort means that I revert back to little emo Therese. And that is Fallen by Lauren Kate. This is a YA paranormal romance following young Luce, who after a tragic event is sent off to a boarding school in Pennsylvania, and there she meets the mysterious Daniel. It's really good. It's trashy, but it's good. It's trashy, but it's good, and I highly recommend the series. It's a nice, good quartet. If you want to ever relate to how middle school Therese felt in middle school, of like wanting to just be whisked away by some random white man who probably, in hindsight, should not have been her first choice, just read Fallen. Just read Fallen because, like, you know, I even wanted her hair in the cover. Like, I even, like, wanted, like, the kind of, like, framey kind of bangs and, like, the wispy, like, long hair. I really couldn't tell you what was wrong with me in middle school. I could not. The escapism was real. It was so real, it's kind of painful when I look back at, like, my paranormal romance kick, and I'm like, sure, Therese, that works. But that is it for the books that comfort me. Again, not sure if all of these books should comfort me, but they do, and that's okay. But until next time, let me know what books comfort you, And then hit like, subscribe, comment, and I'll talk to you guys everywhere else. Until then, bye!